Welcome everyone to the 25th Spanish-speaking Knowledge Seekers Workshop of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, and it's Tuesday, June 30th, 2015, and now we'll begin the workshop. We can hear from Mr. Keshe briefly, and I think we'll probably launch right into having Enrique give the presentation. Mr. Keshe, would you like to say something?
No, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good day to you. Welcome to the Spanish workshop. As usual, we are observers and they explain to us everything they want to do, what they've done. And we learn as usual from them. So who is teaching today?
Rick, Mr. Keshe, how are you?
Not too bad, and you? Are you ready?
We are ready. I hope you're better. And yes, sir. We have a comment first on the case of the hand that was shown last workshop. That I thought it was a wound made by touching the gans in crystal form. But Eric and Rick told me to review if it could have been a caustic wound, and I think it was a caustic wound, not by the gans. But I got mixed up with my desk where I work, and that's all. I think I will observe how it evolves. It still is there, but not a bad hurt. That is just a comment to correct my mistake. Les decía al señor Keshe que en relación con la herida que se mostró la vez pasada, que parecía ser causada por gans en forma cristalina, que yo me había recargado en la mesa, Eric y Rick me hicieron pensar que podía ser de sosa cáustica, que se hubiera mezclado ahí, y parece que sí, pero lo voy a estar observando la herida y les diré después, pero que no quede el error de creer que con los gans en forma cristalina se puede tener algún problema. Parece que no. Okay, Mr. Keshe. Well, today, as I had told you, asked you through my message and the mail, I would like to go to one of the presentations and take it. You asked, you talked about. He says during the 30th health workshop, Mr. Keshe talked about the risk of affecting severely little kids when applying them the triple vaccine from 2.5 to 3 years of age. The effect is too strong, you said, for the small body of a kid, and several emotional energy affections often occur. And you said, remember, the vaccines become gans as soon as they enter the body. Y dice, durante el taller 30 de salud, Mr. Keshe habló sobre el riesgo de afectar severamente a los niños pequeños cuando se les aplica la vacuna triple en edades de 2,5 a 3 años. El efecto es demasiado fuerte para el pequeño cuerpo de un niño y nos decía, y con frecuencia ocurren posibles afectaciones de energía emocional. Recuerda que las vacunas son gans en cuanto entran al cuerpo. Please go ahead. Next, please. Rick. And he said, common severe affections to new kids. I call them new kids. I will explain later why I call them new kids. The affections, said Mr. Keshe, are some of the problem of many new kids born in the recent past decades. And he mentioned the so-called attention deficit disorder, which was used to be called hyperactivity, dyslexia, autism, Asperger's syndrome, epilepsy, bipolarity, depression, and other. I translate. Las afectaciones, dijo Mr. Keshe, son algunos de los problemas observados en muchos nuevos niños nacidos en las décadas recientes, etiquetados como desorden de déficit de atención, antes llamado hiperactividad, dislexia, autismo, síndrome de Asperger, epilepsia, bipolaridad, depresión y otros. Next, please, Rick. The next slide. I remember that Mr. Keshe said that he had lived the experience in one of his sons at an early age, and after a time of study of the situation, he has finally came to a solution with the use of the cup of life of his design, having the kids sipping the water from the cup, and in a few weeks, the disturbing effects had disappeared completely and forever. And his son is now a grown-up and is performing more than well in his life. As we know, the typical treatment of these cases is with psychic drugs and even putting the kid in a mental hospital, destroying his life and the families. I will translate. Mr. Keshe nos dijo que él vivió la experiencia en uno de sus hijos cuando pequeño y tras estudiar la situación diseñó la copa de vida. Y el chico tomaba sorbos de agua de la copa y en unas semanas los efectos perturbadores habían desaparecido completamente y para siempre. Su hijo es ahora un joven adulto y se desempeña muy bien en su vida. Como sabemos, el tratamiento típico de estos casos es con drogas psíquicas y hasta poniendo al chico en un hospital mental, destruyendo su vida y la de la familia. Okay. Next, please. And here's our question. I'm asking about the cup of life, and this application is very important for me because I am an energy healer, and I treat these kids with all those affections, and I treat them with energy, with my healing knowledge in energy. But to me, the cup of life is so important. It would open a new way of attending these people, these kids. And this is what I understood, and I asked Mr. Keshe to correct and elaborate on the cup of life. I understand that it's a nano-coated recipient outside, and nano-coated strips inside with GANs of the adequate compositions that can have a healing effect of the energies of organs and energy centers of the body. You pour water inside and activate a dynamic reactor. The water will take the GANs with it into the body when sipping it, and through the hands that hold the cup. The body takes only what it needs by vibration, affinity, and balances the affected energetic and biological conditions to a healthy condition. And I wonder if I understood correctly, and I think it can be of great help to know how it is that it solves the problem with hyperactivity, so-called hyperactivity. In Spanish is in this next slide. It says la copa de vida. Lo que entendí pidiendo a Mr. Keshe que lo corrija y elabore. Recipiente nano recubierto, como ven en la figura, por fuera y por dentro con varios gajos o franjas de nano recubrimiento de diferentes tipos seleccionados de GANs que pueden hacer un efecto sanador de las energías de órganos y centros energéticos del cuerpo. Se pone agua en el recipiente y se gira un reactor dinámico en el centro. Los GANs entran al cuerpo por los sorbos de agua y por las manos. El cuerpo toma lo que necesita por afinidad vibracional y balancea la condición energética y biológica afectada a una condición sana. And Mr. Keshe, this is a kind of magic effect. And I ask you to correct my understanding, and I will be applying the cup of life in many cases, and I'm sure many other people, many other healers will be able to do the same. Okay, can we have your comments, Mr. Keshe?
I don't understand exactly what you're trying to use the nano-coated cup for.
Well, that's what I understood. I thought that the cup would be nano-coated on the outside, so that the kid, when taking it in the hands, could receive those hands.
This is not so easy.
Okay.
This is not as easy as you explain it. The people and the children who are affected by this immunization do not change just because of a cup. There is a lot of changes, there's a lot of fundamental changes in the structure that it needs to be done that you can change. Just by drinking from a cup, the cup of life I create is totally different than a nano-coated cup of life. Juicy is a design specifically for person, specifically for a structure, and so it is not in a simple way as you're putting it. In the future, you might be able to produce cup of life in this manner. But even then, the cup and the water inside it will be different and will not touch the body of the child. The child cannot touch nanomaterials and that kind of thing. So, in essence, the cup of life I make is a totally isolated system, but in a way interacts with the changes which has come due to what they call change in the disease with the immunization. One of the biggest problems with immunization is mercury. This is part, and you cannot correct mercury, deficiency of mercury into the blood by a simple cup of life. It's much more complicated than that. As I said, a lot of Senate committees in the US were aware of high level of mercury in the immunization, and it was always denied. And now it's back in open, and there is a large amount of mercury. And it's the mercury which causes most of the damage on the brain level. And you cannot sort that out with a simple cup of life.
Fine, I will translate. Me dice el señor Keshe que no sé por qué, no sabe por qué yo supuse que se hacía un recubrimiento, un nanorecubrimiento de la copa de vida por afuera, que eso no es así, que al contrario, que la copa de vida va aislada por fuera, y eso es por un lado. Y segundo, que la solución o sanación de la condición de hiperactividad que se representaba no es tan sencilla, que él, yo como que en estos casos él indica que hay una deficiencia de mercurio en la sangre y que eso no es una cosa fácil de resolver, que tuvo que hacer una serie de ajustes y no fue simplemente tomar el agua de la copa de vida. Que él ha presentado algunos protocolos, inclusive, que no han sido aceptados en los Estados Unidos y que no se debe pensar que es tan simple como usar la copa de vida. Por otro lado, nos dice que se va a tener la posibilidad de fabricar pronto la copa de vida y que se podrá utilizar, pero no pensar que con solamente usar la copa de vida se pueden balancear estas circunstancias.
Let me explain something very interesting. It's just a point of view. It doesn't hold any scientific validation. But Very interesting point is if the pharmaceuticals take time lapse and the weight of the material at the time of production, and if we say this is the tank, don't forget one of the dangerous components of the vaccination is mercury. So what I assume, I can be 100% wrong, this is just a understanding, is most probably why we don't see a large number of children with the problem with all these deficiencies, hyperactivity and everything else, could be that as they use mercury, and mercury is a metal base, does not matter what they do, it settles at the bottom of the container. It doesn't matter how they process it. So the children which are immune with this part show no abnormality. But if your child is unlucky one and gets dosage from the bottom part, gets a higher dose of mercury.
Okay.
This is a potluck. This
Yes, it differs on it.
the immunization, you can't say, maybe we immunize.
The sound is cutting out there, Mr. Keshe. Not sure why. We have some of the sound cutting out. Yeah, we're not hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Starting to hear now.
That's better, that's better, that's better, that's better, that's better. Yes. Okay, can you hear me now?
Good. Yeah.
Yes. Now,
Okay.
yes.
So what happened if 1 million children are immunized, we see no problem. But if 10,000 children in that immunization receive the bottom of the batch, they receive a very high dosage of mercury. It's the nearest explanation we can find why. So your child, your life is a potluck of what you call lottery. If you get this, or maybe here we can even redefine this 10,000 in a much narrower band, where the top half you see slight defects, the middle part, and the bottom part. And the bottom part, if your child to be one of them, wacko. It's a huge problem. This is the only explanation which exists. I can, over years, I could justify the process. I don't oppose immunization. Immunization is necessary part of life. We need it. But this process, adding mercury, which is causing all the problems. Without a doubt, all the 100% of all the problems with immunization comes from mercury. One of the things we don't understand is why do they use mercury? What's the use of mercury? What's the purpose of mercury in immunization when you know mercury has such a side effect?
Yeah. Okay. May I translate?
Yeah.
Okay. Es una explicación muy importante. nos explica el señor Keshe que lo que él ha estudiado es que si hay 1 millón de niños que están siendo vacunados y no les pasa nada, hay una proporción, unos 10,000 niños que sí tienen una afectación en su comportamiento, como el déficit de atención que veíamos. Y él ha estudiado que utilizan mercurio en la solución de la vacuna y lo ponen en el depósito donde van a tomar, crean, cultivan, vamos a decir, el antídoto y le ponen, tiene mercurio, pero ese mercurio pesa y se va al fondo. Entonces eso explica por qué si al tomar la vacuna de la sustancia que está arriba del mercurio, pues no pasa nada. Pero cuando toman la sustancia del fondo, es cuando los niños resultan afectados. Y eso es muy cuestionable. ¿Por qué están usando mercurio para hacer la vacuna? Y bueno, ahorita le voy a preguntar qué podemos hacer. No tanto con la vacuna, sino con la copa de vida, porque la pregunta va dirigida hacia allá. Okay, Mr. Keshe, I understand. Okay.
The point is, one of the question marks for me has been, because this is a psychological pattern, we see it, deficiencies, which lead to physical deficiencies. For some time, I come to a very peculiar, not a conclusion, but a point of view. I think the new generation of ILS, MS, and fibromyalgia are long-term effect of immunization.
Okay.
I can say maybe 50% our chances increases with this. So if you received, let's say, this part added to it, you add to this part in the long run. Because psychologically, you have subjected the body into deformation. So we see no sometimes reasons for MS or ILS or FMS, and we come to a point that certain behavior which leads to these in infancy up to age of 14 can be related to immunization. But this is a long-term, needs long-term research following people up. But I can say with 50% certainty, the new generation of especially ILS could come from immunization. In the young children, we see over 20 to 25. That's why we see a large increase in ILS, especially ILS in a young age. We're talking age bracket of 20, 25, maybe 30 years old.
Mr. Keshe?
Yeah?
What do you think of the effect of mercury in the atmosphere that might affect that that whole situation as well? For example, yesterday the Supreme Court in the U.S. Blocked an initiative from the Environmental Protection Agency to try to regulate mercury, the emissions of mercury from coal-fired power plants, and they decided to, in a 5-4 decision, said the justice said, it is not rational, never mind appropriate, to impose billions of dollars in economic costs in return for a few dollars in health or environmental benefits. So
You know what the judges should have been told? Can we inject yourself and your family with it? No problem. If it's no good for, if there is no problem, you accept the mercury injection. Shall we see if it's good for other people too? The judges are remote from reality, and the payroll is dictated by the lobby groups, especially. So that's their problem. That's what they say.
Eso sí los entiendo.
Sí, pero creo que me dicen eso.
You want to translate?
translate.
Yes, please. Muy bien. Aquí nos hace una llamada muy importante de atención el señor Keshe, porque nos dice que con este uso del mercurio, como se va acumulando, se va concentrando en el depósito en que se hace la vacuna, van diferentes concentraciones y que en el caso de los que están más concentrados, el 100% de los casos que ha visto tienen consecuencias posteriores que se pueden correlacionar con afectaciones que aparecen más tarde, como es la esclerosis múltiple, la ¿cómo?
Déficit de atención.
No, ALS, que es lateral sclerosis también, y otras afectaciones que se desconoce porque aparecen y ahora, con lo que ha visto el señor Keshe, encuentra que es aparentemente por la concentración de mercurio que se ha usado en las vacunas y que esto es pues una situación que debe conocerse, ¿no? Nos dijo de una familia.
Hasta los 14 años.
Que esto aparece en los niños hasta los 14 años en adelante y que esto ocurre en una proporción del 20 en los años. Ocurre también en niños de 20, jóvenes de 20, 25, hasta 30 años. Este es el tiempo de acumulación del efecto dañino del mercurio y esto pues es una investigación, como nosotros podemos pensar, muy, muy fuerte y le voy a preguntar
El comentario de Rick.
Okay. Hay un comentario también de Rick donde pregunta si también estos efectos del mercurio pueden ser derivados de la presencia del mercurio en la atmósfera, que hay un reporte reciente, oficial, sobre la gravedad de la situación de concentración de mercurio en la atmósfera. Y no me recuerdo qué fue lo que...
La Suprema Corte de los Estados Unidos rechazó una petición para limpiar la atmósfera de esos residuos de mercurio y ellos respondieron que no era necesario porque se tendría que gastar muchos millones de dólares para tener un provecho de pocos dólares, entonces por eso fue rechazada. Y el señor Keshe responde que no hay problema con las partículas de mercurio que están en el medio ambiente.
Así es, que parece ser que nada más es cuando se ingiere. Sí, entra como GANS en la vacuna y el comentario es muy fuerte, es muy importante porque voy a hacerlo en inglés primero. Mr. Keshe, this is extremely important because this means that it is more dangerous than apparent in the vaccination of the little kids, because the risk is of this size that you mentioned.
Very much. The risks are very high. But don't forget, there is a percentage of this number of people are to do with the structure of the child, which is very sensitive to mercury too. So there is a problem, and if we have any of our Belgian guys on the line today, I don't know if he's there, there's a guy called Peter Van Achter. He went, he collected everything to do with immunization. The problems with immunization, an international problem with immunization. And what the Belgian government decided to do, they issued a warrant for him that he's mentally demented. He has to go to a psychological, what do you call it, the institute we looked at. They actually managed to get the guy in court to institutionalize him, that they could protect the interest of the pharmaceutical. He was offered the job of heading the Keshe Foundation years ago because of his expertise, and he used to be mayor of the city. And I know quite a lot about this immunization business, how they do. It's a totally pressure lobby, and the judges are forced to pass judgment. He managed just to get off with it with a lot of problem, and they pay somebody from what you know is called what do you call it, the pressure group. We were talking about it over the pardon? No. We were talking about the guy. Excuse me, Miranda. The group who is pressurizing John. That's okay. No. The group. The group. What do you call it? He was the head of, and they said he's not radical. He said it's not radical enough. No. The name of the the group they call themselves. They have a name. Skeptics.
Los escépticos.
Skeptics group are totally financed to protect immunization. This is part of the job of them. All the members of this group are paid as part of the group to bring cases against people who fight immunization. They all have Swiss bank accounts paid heavily. They are on the payroll of the, what do you call it, pharmaceuticals and the license. Anybody which carries except this group, and they come, they make dossiers, they go through, they've done a lot with Keshe Foundation. They make a lot of falsified documents. They submitted one of the documents to the Italian military against me very recently. And the military guy said, take a walk. But they are very, very influential. They sit at the highest power, and they control this section. Anybody who goes to attack the thing, they find a single man, one of them themselves, and then they attack and take people to court, and they pay, they threat to judges. Judges are paid. And in Europe, judges are in the hand of the banks, which means the judges make decision not on the evidence, but the judges make decision on how and they've been paid. Because Keshe Foundation has been through this ourselves. I spent nearly 2 years and tens of thousands of euros to go for this. The gentleman is a pedophile. He's got a record in Indonesia raping a 10 and 12-year-old child, and he was in the front. He went to the judge. Everything is correct. They just dismissed it because he's part of this group and what they are. The judge decision in Europe and America is irrelevant.
Yo no he entendido nada. Por favor.
Now in Europe, the, what do you call it, prosecutors are put in especially to work for this lobby, for this kind of thing. You'll find out only certain prosecutors handle this thing because they're already part of it. We've been through it. Even in the Court of Appeal, the judges bought out. Even I attended the nuclear center in Belgium, the head of the decision making, the head of the, what do you call it, nuclear safety of Belgium, in respect to our work, he said, why don't you leave Belgium? I said, you're an inspector. He said, I speak the government language. I said, you have no right. But he said,
Okay. Can we translate?
pass these things, what they've been paid. Yes?
We'd like to translate, and I would just mention, Mr. Keshe, that this is extremely important, and it's great that you're talking about this. My original idea was, and I will present it in the next workshop, the problem with the affections of attention deficit disorder and the others. And I would like to present how I treat them with as emotional problems, and ask for your comments on this. And also, if you can correct my interpretation for the cup of life, because we would like to have a better understanding of the possibilities of using it.
Cup of life, let me explain. Translate what I explained first, and then I explain about the cup of life.
El señor Keshe nos ha explicado algo muy importante. Dice que es una situación muy grave, que es ampliamente conocido en el mundo científico esta cuestión de el asentamiento de las partículas de mercurio en la parte baja de las vacunas, del recipiente de las vacunas, que se han hecho investigaciones profundas, se ha aclarado ante las autoridades correspondientes, pero que el problema grave es que los farmacéuticos que fabrican estas vacunas tienen gente especial a los que les dicen escépticos. Es un grupo de escépticos que se dedican a defender a los laboratorios. Que el problema grave es que se compran a los jueces para que dictaminen a favor de las farmacéuticas, que en especial esto está sucediendo en Nueva York. La Fundación Keshe lo ha vivido en carne propia. Ellos han estado haciendo investigaciones acerca de esto, y cuando presentan las denuncias, pues el dinero va de por medio y los jueces fallan a favor de las farmacéuticas. Enrique le preguntó si él puede hacer una presentación de cómo trata a niños con problemas de déficit de atención con energía, para que el señor Keshe haga sus comentarios posteriores.
Very well, Mr. Keshe. We are ready and about to finish.
No, but we got to, because this is part of the health program. The next session is in health. We don't cut for something else.
Mm-hmm.
The cup of life, which I produce, controlled. We were talking about it this morning in the teaching. The cup of life I produce is for a specific condition. The normal cup of life is totally different. The normal cup of life has to have certain configuration, has to have certain way of producing, has to have the total understanding of the structure. Because one cup of life does not work. It's not impossible, but in a way it has different things. You have to have the same as what we spoke about, the universal unit, we call it the Fukushima structure. You have to have a specific condition on the material. So you have one central point. And this is part of the structure. When you make a cup of life, you take the totality from the total creation. If you can do 12 cups, it'll be much better. But in a way, it's not a water you want to drink. Depends how you structure it, which cup considers as the emotional part, which part considers a physical part, and which part you put as the total, what you call the emotional part of the cup of life. Single cup of lives are not practical. Cup of lives have to be produced in a condition that not only themselves, but the condition they create in respect to the others gives you the totality of the spectrum for physicality and emotion. It's more to cup of life than you just think you can quote something and just drink. You want to translate?
Yes, please.
And then let me explain to you before you go any further. You can drink from each cup for its purpose. You don't need to drink all the cups. Let's say if you have Alzheimer's, this cup is good enough for you, plus this cup. But if you have a paralysis, you need this cup and this cup, for example. You have to understand.
Fine. I will translate. Nos explica el señor Keshe que debe quedar claro que la copa de vida no es una situación tan simple como poner un reactor, ponerle agua y que eso va a hacer los efectos. Decíamos que tienen que ser los GANs adecuados. Adecuados, ¿qué quiere decir? Nos explica que lo que se tiene que ver en la copa de vida es una estructura bastante más complicada, compleja, que ven en el dibujo que ahorita está tapando él, pero que es como una estrella de múltiples picos en donde está el reactor del centro, y entonces están alrededor disponibles los depósitos de los GANs que son adecuados para una enfermedad o una afectación u otra, ya sea emocional o biológica, y que no se ponen todos en una copa de vida que cualquiera puede llegar y a ver qué pasa, sino que se tienen que poner exclusivamente, como vio, bueno, si es para el Alzheimer, pues se pone ese cuadrito, la que está en ese cuadrito, más la otra, y en cada caso se tiene que diseñar, habiendo hecho un estudio, cuál es la composición de los GANs que van a estar en la copa de vida para que tengan el efecto debido. Eso es todo, ¿verdad? Okay, Mr. Keshe, it is clear now, but I would still like to present how I see the case of these so-called sickness, which are not sickness, but affectations like deficit of attention deficit disorder, epilepsy, and whatever, and see how it is related with the emotional energy, the emotional body, and see if a couple of lives could take that knowledge somehow into account and design a couple of life for each of these affections, or not. But I would like to be able to present this, and you will be able to correct me and to see if a couple of lives could be designed for each case.
I think, do you want to do it now or do you want to do it?
No, there's no time today.
No. I'll tell you what. Do you want to do it now or do you want to do it do you have it to present it? Because what we can do, we can finish with the Spanish and go into the health section and discuss it in the health section because it's important.
Well, I could present.
Are you prepared? Or
I'm ready to present the situation, but not the proposal, because I thought there wouldn't be time, and I need to make some drawings and so on.
I'll give you a chance to present it as a Spanish health section next week.
Okay.
Because this is important.
Very well.
Extremely important. So next section, next Tuesday, health section and the Spanish we bring together, and you can present it, and if you want to translate it in the background. There is no problem, because these problems, these side effects of this immunization is a huge problem.
Mm-hmm. It's a huge.
Yeah, the problem. This is something people don't understand. The problem. If you get a nail in your foot, if you have a head injury like me, you go to the hospital, you get it done. But when you have a child which is affected by this, it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime, day and night. People who are affected so bad, they change the whole lifestyle to live. Brothers, sisters, children, the whole family gets affected. Mm-hmm. It's not just one head injury, you get the stitches on and you walk out and there's nothing. They change the structure, they bring marriages to an end because the severity is so high that the parents are not trained for it. I've seen so many divorces. I've seen so many split of families. I've seen so many children suffering because the youngest child has suffered with this, and the other children have to pay because all the attention and time goes to this. This is family wrecking this position. I like to see one thing. They say there is nothing wrong. I put a proposal very recently, not recently, years ago, is that they say there is nothing wrong with the injection. I would like to have all the children and the grandchildren of all the board of directors of the pharmaceuticals which produce this to be injected with the bottom of the thing, the bottom of the tank. There is nothing wrong. They stand by it. We've monitored the injection. I want to see how many of them allow it. Because when it happens, it's a lifestyle change for 10, 20 people. Not just one person who gets affected. It's worse than cancer. It's the worst thing I've ever seen devastating families. Because when you have a child, especially the ones who be given the bottom of the line, mentally handicapped, physically handicapped, the whole structure of the family just tears apart. And it's a lifetime, 50 years of torture for the whole family. And Keshe was one greedy director of the pharmaceutical, maybe 2 prostitutes, and maybe a villa on Bahamas. I know how, if you open the expose, how most of the directors of pharmaceuticals are a bunch of God knows what, and let them give them our children, the top, and let their children have the bottom injection. None of them will allow it to happen because they know what things sits on their hand. Everybody in the highest level knows what is happening. But this is the profit line of the pharmaceutical. It cannot be spared because if they use this, they don't use it, the margin, the numbers does not make the profit line of the company. Pardon?
Why the mercury?
Nobody knows why they're using mercury. Because mercury could be a connection between the 3 immunizations. It could be a binder. But what I say, and these guys, to profit, that margin is so big for them that they put these people on the payroll. We were discussing these people, skeptics, with the Sears Group. The Sears Group, John has been literally harassed by these all his life. And imagine these people sit in the board of directors of these, and they have to protect themselves to have the benefit. And most of them are educational leaders. Most of them are industrial leaders. The skeptics, people, are head of universities. Because they get research money from this to protect the research money, they are all the people who are members of the skeptics are payroll by pharmaceuticals, others. They are on the false names, head of universities, dean of universities, industrialists at the highest level because they're on the payroll. You want one of them? Would you like to do it on behalf of John? Have you got an authorization to do it? Authorization to reveal one of these skeptics who is? Stand here. I don't talk on your behalf. Take your. You've done enough work.
Traducción.
Give the microphone, please. Just 1 second. You can do the translation, no problem.
Hay una parte que no entendí.
If you are afraid to do it, or you think you might damage John, is damage John enough? Just by these people. We hear from. Put the camera on him.
I'd like to elaborate on this term skeptics. We don't have a problem with.
First of all, introduce yourself, who you are.
Oh, this is Fernando Morris of Cero Magnetics and Cero Aerospace, and we're based in San Diego, California. We have an operation that's redeveloping the serial technology for energy and transportation. But it hasn't been easy. We have encountered what you call skeptics along the way. But the worst kind is the pseudo-skeptic, the ones that pretend they're skeptics. You see, skeptics are not so bad. They just need to be convinced, but they're somewhat open-minded. It's the pseudo-skeptics that cannot be convinced. They have their own agenda. They pretend to be skeptics. Those are the ones that do a lot of damage in a lot of ways, and some of them are institutionalized. The one that we came across, and it's been really vicious and tenacious, is one that actually belongs to a university. We didn't know it.
He won't be in this position. I mean, repeat it in the others.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do it because if I do it, it's because you talking up.
Yeah, well, it took us years to piece together all the clues, but he's a dean of a university. His name is Stephen Donnelly.
He's the dean of University of Huddersfield.
And
he's actually head of university, so he dictates the condition, and he's a executive. He's on the payroll of different organizations, energy, same, make sure he's up his line.
And we wondered, how does he find so much time? I always felt that this was somebody that was paid, had a lot of time, and he was able to recruit others to do the same thing. So they would hunt down the subject of Cyril over the internet.
Do you want to mention his name clearly? Now you mentioned it, at least spread that they know what his name is.
Well, I guess we can. It's mentioned clearly in John's book, which is a 1,000-page book that's coming out this year. And what we determined that is Stephen Donnelly. He's a dean of university. And this man
University
has
of Huddersfield in UK. So he's in a very position to influence people to block for his financial benefit.
They've gone out of their way to find anywhere where the subject of the Cyril technology is mentioned on any forum, and they will just go down there like a pack of wolves and just criticize and just say anything negative. It's a negative campaign. They make it seem like they're a part of the forum, but they're not. It's actually an intentional attempt to ruin John Searle in every way possible. So the way I see it, they're trying to prove that the SCG.
Can you tell us what name he uses on the internet?
He uses a handle called Flower Bower.
Flower Bower. Yeah. It's a dean of university uses a name on the Flower Bower to attack other scientists. And then underneath, as a dean of university, he calls other institute, this is dangerous. I'm a dean of university, so they take his word for it. What they don't know is what are called scientific terrorists. There is no difference between these guys and Bin Laden. There is no difference. They are literally Bin Ladens in the disguise of university chancellors and the rest.
But the subject of serial technology is not the only subject of attack. Anybody that is a free thinker, that is not in accordance to the university, academia, teachings, anything in advance of what's being taught in their universities or mainstream thought is a subject of attack. In other words, it seems like.
Do you want to spell his name? At least people can make a note of it. It's called Stephen Donnelly.
Right.
Stephen E. Donnelly. D-O-double-N? Or is it single N?
I have to look it up.
Donnelly. E-Y. And he is the dean of university. It's called Huddersfield in north of England. And he used to be part of Salford University. So as a professor, he exercises Stephen because he has a company called E. Donnelly in Warrington, which he promotes the technologies which he can sell to his company to make money.
Okay, maybe we can translate.
Yes, please.
Oh, it's quite important. First, his knowledge for me adds to my knowledge of what the establishment is doing with these new kids, and it seems that they want to stop them from developing, from being the great kids that they're going to change the world, but the establishment don't want the kids to be the wise kids they can be. But let's translate.
El señor Keshe estaba explicando que este trastorno que se provoca con el mercurio en las vacunas es mucho más grave de lo que podríamos pensar porque destruye a las familias completas. La discapacidad física que provoca en los niños es muy severa y esta discapacidad no solamente ataca al niño, sino que separa a las familias. Él hablaba de una cantidad impresionante de divorcios, de familias rotas, de niños lastimados por toda esta situación que se provoca con este trastorno. Y hablaba también de, otra vez, este grupo de escépticos, que son los que provocan todo esto, que no sabe, él no tiene idea, no se explica por qué se utiliza mercurio en las vacunas. No hay una razón lógica para utilizarla. Que hay un grupo, este grupo de escépticos se dedica a distorsionar la información y si hay alguien que quiera aclararlo, atacan ferozmente. Le pidió a este asistente Fernando que le explicara lo que sucede en Estados Unidos, porque él trabaja en Estados Unidos, en una agencia espacial. Y Fernando explica que en la universidad hay un hombre llamado Stephen Donnelly, que es el director de la universidad, y que él es un escéptico, pero que se dedica a ser escéptico. Los escépticos son pagados por por las farmacéuticas para sembrar todo este desacuerdo y que se lanzan, Fernando explica que se lanzan como una manada de lobos para atacar a quienes no están de acuerdo o a quienes tratan de aclarar. Que dice que hay dos tipos de escépticos, los que son los pseudoescépticos, son los que son pagados y que tienen todo el poder y todo el dinero para reclutar más gente y hacer esta labor. Se hacen conocer como el Flower Bower, que es lo que escribió el señor Keshe en el pizarrón. Se autonombran el Flower Bower, así son conocidos. Creo que fue todo lo que explicó.
Sí, esto les decía yo al señor Keshe, que es evidentemente una acción deliberada para afectar a los niños, porque la vacuna que le quieren poner a todos, lo que yo veo es que todos tienen el riesgo de tener esta afectación de sus vidas y que se echen a perder la vida de los niños nuevos. En la próxima sesión yo voy a presentar mi conocimiento de muchos años sobre estos niños y las afectaciones que tienen en el aspecto emocional por los psiquiatras y por toda la farmacia otra vez de drogas que tienen aparentemente ese mismo propósito que nos hace ver ahora el señor Keshe, prácticamente de destruir las cualidades y la posibilidad de vida de estos niños maravillosos que están desde hace varias décadas apareciendo. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Okay, you got to understand something, is that these people at this position are using national resources. These are money used of the education line. He spends time in the university as a dean to attack scientists and to organize. So what happens is organized terrorism by dean of universities. We know a number of these. And we can release a number of these scientists who will stand in a high power position and use the power position and a false name to pressurize. This is not the first time. I can reveal you 2 or 3 more.
Sure.
But what is interesting, this word. You know who uses this name? The flower boys?
Flower generation,
Good morning.
the hippies.
You know, do you want to explain to us for the flower generation for the ones who don't know?
I can tell you what I know. The flower generation were the hippies. Those were kids that were sent to change the behavior of the world, and they asked for peace and love, but they were destroyed by the drugs, by the establishment. But they were the reincarnation of those who had died in the First and Second World War. They came to try to change the world into the peace and love way of doing, and they were destroyed.
Yes.
But now they are the new kids come to change the world within the families. But they are being destroyed by these vaccines and by the psychological treatment, the psychiatrics who send them substances and drugs that really destroy them also. It seems to be quite a plot to stop the kids as they stopped the flower generation. This is what I know.
Right. So what I've asked our webmaster to put his name down on his position. The question is, how many of you are going to write to University of Huddersfield telling the directors and the students who is heading the university? Unfortunately, he carries the title, professor. I call him a terrorist.
Traducimos.
¿Eh?
Traducimos.
If we have the link, we can do it.
¿Lo traducimos?
Once you receive the link from Amen, you can put it up. You can see the face of terrorists. We had a lot of problem with this group. And some of them live in Switzerland. And they have a very healthy bank account in Switzerland. That's all their job is. That's the case of Mr. Stephen Donnelly. He is an international, to me, terrorist. He has caused a lot of scientists to commit suicide because there is a professor name and he puts his name on. We don't see it. Hello. Have you lost the screen? You see it there? The same. Hello.
Can we translate meanwhile?
Yeah, I got it.
Have you lost your screen? Vince?
No, it
Yes.
should be playing.
We don't see it. We just see a black screen.
It's just a dark screen right now.
Traducimos.
Okay, there it
Yeah.
is.
It is here. It tells you Professor Stephen Donnelly has a first degree in experimental physics from University of Liverpool, a master's degree in atomic collision in solid form of University of Sussex, a PhD which was sponsored by UK Atomic Energy Authority. You can see it. Sponsored means it's financed by IEA, UK Atomic Energy Authority. These are part of my ex-bosses, part of British Nuclear here, and carried out in the Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering of University of Salford. These people get money through their connection to bring PhDs in. So they bound to whatever they're told. They get 90–95% of the sponsorship from the IEA. So anybody who comes with a new energy is paid into a private account of his in sponsorship and PhDs in Salford University, and he is destroyed. So now you see, can you go back on that, please, on the picture? Wills, we lost it again. Can we have it back? Okay. He is heavily, strange enough, you see it here, Belgium. Here, you see exactly where it comes from, why we get attacked. Englishman in Belgium protecting the same structure. These are face-off Bin Laden terrorists in the scientific organization. These are the peer reviewers who block. But you understand, to become a dean of university, you need IAEA to sponsor you. I come in with a university with a 10 million check from IAEA. I want the professorship. I want the seat of the dean. The structure of the deans in universities in England is done by how much money you can bring in and what you can sponsor. So Huddersfield used to be a technical university, polytechnic. It's at the bottom of the scale of education list in England. And how a man at this point makes a dean, because now they can use him as influence, as a skeptic, to do damage. You should not understand. Huddersfield, I lived in England for 29, 30 years. Huddersfield is only a few kilometers from where I lived and worked for years, Manchester. And if you had the son who couldn't go anywhere, you wanted just for him to have a polytechnic degree, they go to Huddersfield because there was nowhere else, the bottom of the pit. So they can influence direction by just giving a professorship and a dean of university. And these are the skeptics. These are the people who pressurize people, us, and John Cyril Group with the same kind of thing. So the one thing interesting with them is this flower boy is partially gay society. I said, if there is a law in England that is a Freedom Information Act, you can ask the university to open up all the internet communication this gentleman has been on. It's your right. It's the only country in the world you can do it. They passed a law. It's called Freedom of Information. You can write to university and ask, he used to be in Salford University before, ask for all his communication on the internet, because the public has paid for it. It's the right of the public to have the information. And I'm sure you'll find a lot of quotes on John Cyril's and Keshe Foundation and other. And he says, I'm an energy man. We can chase his IP. Flower bar, why has he put in the forums of the other foundations attack point? So the face of Mr. Steve Donnelly is the face of a scientific terrorist. Because they use their position, and they influence decision making because they are dean of university. We go back to this on a Thursday teaching because we received a lot of pressure from these people. Now we open the names. And the interesting is, they have a very powerful friend in Downing Street. Extremely powerful friend within the cabinet of British government. And if name be, we put it on. There is no problem because they can't deny it. So now you understand how energy organization systems are all under pressure by these people. what the Cyril group told today is going to be in the book. We are not revealing anything which is not going to be in the book. He's already written the book. The book is it published this year? Hello? The book is getting published this year?
Possibly.
Yeah. And the name is there. It's taken them years to find out. It took us with the server masters to find out how we get attacked by whom and who is on our website. And we could see Pentagon. I called Pentagon. I said, why are you on my server? You want something to know? We teach you. You don't need to be on my line. We've done the same thing with nanotechnology in Manchester University. They got a Nobel Prize. We can show you how much they've downloaded. So,
Shall we translate?
translate, yes, please.
El señor Keshe está dando una amplia explicación de lo que sucede con este grupo de escépticos. Él dice que muchos de ellos están como directores de universidades que se hacen llamar profesores, pero que él los llamaría terroristas, porque se dedican a bloquear a los científicos, que esto es más grave de lo que parece. Hay científicos serios que se han suicidado por culpa de gente como Steve Donnelly, que los presionan. Explica que este grupo de escépticos logra estas posiciones tan altas porque tienen amigos poderosos en los gobiernos. En especial este hombre que tiene tantos títulos, maestrías, doctorados, se ha dedicado a bloquear todos los avances tecnológicos, no solamente en Estados Unidos, sino también en Bélgica, en donde estuvo trabajando mucho tiempo también, en Inglaterra, en esta Universidad de Huddersfield, en donde él trabaja ahora. Nos preguntó si sabíamos lo que quería decir el Flower Power, y Enrique le explica que era todo este movimiento de los hippies de los años 60, la generación de la flor, que se le llamaba, que predicaban el amor y la paz, y que el gobierno intencionalmente sembró la droga en ellos, y así fue destruido este movimiento, para que no hubiera paz y amor. El señor Keshe dice que así es esto, ellos se involucran, se meten por donde menos se espera y destruyen todo lo que sea el avance científico para la gente. A grandes rasgos esto es lo que explica. Repite el nombre de este hombre para que se tenga muy en cuenta. Steve Donnelly, que se tome muy en cuenta, y que hay fuertes cantidades de dinero detrás de todo esto.
Okay.
What is interesting?
Mr.
What
Keshe,
is
I'm wondering if
interesting?
we should move to the health workshop as...
It's okay, no problem. Just wait 1 second.
Sure.
If you want, the Cyril group can give you his IP as well. His internet IP can be revealed, that everybody knows exactly how he comes in.
Could you repeat that, please? We couldn't hear.
Pardon?
We couldn't hear clearly what you said, excuse me.
The Cyril group can give you his IP, internet number. It can be traced down to.
Okay.
But not deny it because it's only private to him.
Dice que podemos conseguir su ID, su identificación, y poderlo seguir y encontrar, y tener cuidado, que hay que hablar de esta labor tan perversa, y que pues yo interpretaría como precisamente uno de los agentes de la oscuridad, de lo que le han llamado pues el poder oscuro, que quiere dominar este planeta y que no quiere que evolucione a la humanidad, y esta es una obstrucción muy clara, me parece.
It'll be interesting how many of you will send an email to Huddersfield University asking for Stephen Donnelly's position.
Dice, ¿cuántos de ustedes habrían de mandar a sus hijos a estudiar a esa universidad? ¿Verdad que no? Cuidado, eso ha pasado en la historia.
The position is, with what is revealed, what is opened up, his position as the Dean of University is unattainable. And in the coming days, we submit papers to the British Education Authorities as a Dean of University and to the Board of Directors of the University of his activities. I want to know how long he will stay in that position. They have more free time on his hand to attack scientists, but have no credibility. Thank you very much. We close the Spanish group teaching. Next week, yours, health, and Spanish together to go in more detail in what you want to discuss. And we'll start the health. And before health, we have an announcement to make at the beginning of the health, what do you call it? Workshop.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Nos dice el señor Keshe que veremos en la próxima sesión del workshop para habla hispana el tema que yo sugerí y pedí permiso de hacer, que me ha autorizado, sobre los niños nuevos que están siendo afectados tanto por estas vacunas truculentas, destructivas de la vida de los niños y su familia, como también lo veremos, como es mi tesis, en el caso de los niños que tienen déficit de atención, epilepsia, autismo, Asperger y las demás afectaciones que están proliferando y que no es casualidad que estén en esa condición. Muy bien, nos veremos la próxima vez. Muchas gracias, señor Keshe. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. We close here. It was very, very extremely important, and it matches with what I'm going to present in the next session.
Thank you very much indeed. We close this session and we go to the health teaching.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Keshe, and thank you, Enrique.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody.
And that'll be the end of the 25th Spanish-speaking Knowledge Seekers Workshop.
You send the thing to Vince.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.